Hello, this is Weeb Science. On this channel I'm gonna explain how certain aspects in fictional worlds full of magic, superpowers and mythological creatures can be explained by real-world science. Today we'll talk about Mirialans, because I got a request to do so. If you have other video suggestions, leave them in the comments. Mirialans are native to the outer rim planet Mirial, that has a cold and dry climate. They look almost identical to humans, but possess green or yellow skin, and usually have facial tattoos. These tattoos are not merely an aesthetic body modification, they are given to Mirialans for special achievements they've accomplished. This leads to a certain stratification of society, with the Mirialans with the most tattoos being the most reputable ones. It also indicates that their society is highly meritocratic. Since tattoos are not a birthright, every Mirialan has an opportunity to earn a lot of tattoos and with it the respect of their people and high social standing. The Jedi Master Luminara Unduli and her Padawan Barriss Offee both possess facial tattoos. In legends it's established that Luminara's tattoos were given to her for her high physical prowess and her agility, as well as for mastering Zoresu, the third form of lightsaber combat. The meaning of Barriss's tattoos is unknown. The tattoos of the seventh sister are smaller and of lighter color than those of the two Jedi. This could be because she achieved less than them in the eyes of her species, and was thus considered of lower social standing. This might be connected to why she turned to the dark side. She could have been disappointed that her race didn't treat her with the respect she thought she deserved, or she always had negative tendencies that prevented her from gaining more and bigger tattoos. Where Nestra Rowe, the green girl from Star Wars High Republic, lacks any facial tattoos, which indicates that she hasn't proven herself to her kind yet. This could be a great basis for her character arc, her trying to find out who she is and what she wants to be known for by her fellow Mirialans. Failing along the way because she rushed it or overestimated herself, but in the end finding her place in the Jedi Order and her species, earning both the title of Jedi Master and her face tattoos. Well, that or Disney forgot about the relevance of facial tattoos to the Mirialans and thought they were merely an aesthetic choice. But that's unlikely. When has Disney ever butchered Star Wars lore? Mirialans are known to have an in-group preference, with Mirialan Jedi preferably picking Mirialans as their Padawans, indicating that they are a very social species that needed strong cooperation to survive on their home world, and are at least a little bit biased against other species, which is understandable since their planet was oppressed by the Trade Federation. They practice a religion that is based on a primitive understanding of the Force, though not all Mirialans are Force sensitive. One of their core beliefs in legends was that the actions of one person can cause ripples in the Force, influencing the whole species. This further explains why they gave tattoos to the people that did something remarkable. Every Mirialan should know about the influence the individual had on the well-being of the group. But now let's look at Mirialan titties and see what we can learn from it. They have two breasts, which indicate that they bear one or two children with every pregnancy, just like humans or Twi'leks. We can infer that because they only have two nipples available to feed their children with. If they bore more babies, they would possess an additional pair of breasts. Their boobies also appear to be slightly smaller than the breast of Twi'leks. This could indicate several things. The sexual selection for breast size wasn't as strong for Mirialan females as for Twi'leks, which would indicate that male Twi'leks love big titties. There could however be a more serious reason for it as well. Twi'leks' breasts are likely bigger because of additional fat tissue, and they also have an additional fat reserve in their leku. meaning that they are able to store more energy than Mirialans are. This is likely due to less energy-rich food being available on Mirial than Ryloth, as well as the increased metabolic rate the Mirialans need to keep their body temperature up in the cold climate of their homeworld. Their increased metabolic rate does also have the beneficial side effect that they are generally more agile than humans, giving them an advantage in a fight. The fact that Mirialans and humans can interbreed indicates that they must have similar genital anatomy, with males possessing a penis and females a vagina. The penis is a male organ allowing internal fertilization and can be found in both vertebrates and invertebrates. And penises are not necessarily homologous, meaning they are not always inherited from a common ancestor but evolved separately multiple times. Vaginas, on the other hand, are a mammalian adaptation, meaning that all animals that have vaginas are mammals and share a common ancestor. The vagina is an opening to the reproduction tract separated from the urethra and anus. Amphibians, reptiles and birds have a cloaca, where there is one hole for all three functions. The Mirialans must have very similar genetics to create viable offspring, and ideally should have an identical number of chromosomes, so the offspring is fertile as well. The best way to explain the similar genital anatomy and the genetic similarity to humans is a relatively recent common ancestor. At least if evolution in Star Wars works the same as evolution in our world. But how recent would that ancestor be? We know that humans and chimps that separated 13 million years ago can't interbreed, but tigers and lions that had a common ancestor 4 million years ago can. The same is true for horses and zebras that shared a common ancestor 4 million years ago as well. The problem is that zebras are usually infertile because there is already a big difference in chromosome number between horse and zebra. Ligers, on the other hand, are often fertile because tigers and lions share the same number of chromosomes. This leads me to believe that the last common ancestor of humans and Mirialans would have existed 4 million years ago or earlier, and colonized different planets with different selection pressures, which caused the ancestor to split into multiple species. What further supports the idea that humans and Mirialans share a common ancestor is the fact that both possess identical endosymbionts, the midichlorians. But let's say the rules for evolution in Star Wars are not the same as in the real world. Let's say Mirialans and humans do not share a common ancestor, but the Force directed evolution of both species to a certain end goal. Humanoid species capable of interbreeding with each other and able to interact with the Force. This is a combination of two outdated evolutionary hypotheses: polygenism and orthogenesis. Polygenism claims that the different human races do not share a common ancestor, or in our case that the different humanoid species, like humans, Twi'leks and Mirialans, do not share a common ancestor. One specific polygenetic model claimed that white people evolved from archaic Homo sapiens, blacks from gorillas or chimps, Asians from orangutans, and Native Americans from an unknown ape. That specific hypothesis was used to deny the humanity of people of color, and is now considered racist and factually incorrect. To explain why unrelated species could interbreed and create fertile offspring, orthogenesis was used. It claimed that evolution is not controlled by natural selection, but has an end goal in mind, with some people going as far as to claim that the Christian God directs evolution, though the people believing God directs evolution generally did not believe polygenism because they believed all humans came from Adam and Eve. But regardless of whether people believed it was a god or a natural force driving evolution to an end goal, it was believed to always increase complexity, and the human was believed to be the most complex of all life forms, making him the end goal, or at least the closest thing to an end goal that had yet evolved. and the other species being viewed as less complex and lower on the so-called Scala Naturae, which dates back to Aristotle. Orthogenesis is now considered unscientific and incorrect, because we know that evolution can also reduce complexity if the right selection pressures are present. Having 4 legs, for example, is a more complex state than having no legs, and yet snakes evolved from 4-legged ancestors. We also know that humans aren't the most complex of all organisms in all regards. Our eyes have cones to distinguish between 3 different colors, while chicken have 6 different cone types, one of which allows them to see ultraviolet light. Meaning chicken eyes are technically more complex than human eyes. We also know that natural selection is a demonstrable fact, while evolution being directed towards an end goal is disproved by examples like whales. If whales had a predetermined goal to become aquatic, why would their aquatic ancestor become terrestrial just for later terrestrial ancestors to become aquatic again? If evolution, however, doesn't have an end goal, and the species simply adapt to the selection pressures they experience, it is absolutely possible that there once was a selection pressure that made a terrestrial lifestyle beneficial, and later one that favored an aquatic lifestyle again. In Star Wars, however, we don't have whales. But we know of a supernatural force that can create life. Let's assume a polygenic orthogenetic origin of humans and Mirialans. It would mean that the force specifically controlled the chromosome numbers and the number and order of genes on said chromosomes to make interbreeding between the 2 species possible. This is a very real possibility, since we know Palpatine created Anakin with the Force, and even if he didn't create Anakin's zygote from scratch, at the very least he used Shmi's eggs and duplicated the X cell's DNA except the X chromosome, and then created a Y chromosome from scratch with the Force, because there are no Y chromosomes in any female cell. If the Force can create Y chromosomes out of nothing, it can also create chromosomes very similar to that of humans by manipulating already existing chromosomes in other species. But why would the Force do that? The only reason I can come up with is that the humanoid form is one of the few that allows to be inhabited by midichlorians and have the cognitive abilities to use them to tap into the Force. We know, however, that not all sentient Force-sensitive species are humanoid, so it clearly isn't the only form. Just one the Force appears to favor. In conclusion, while the explanation that humans and Mirialans have a common ancestor fits better with real-world biology, the Force would theoretically allow for the evolution of Mirialans without needing common ancestry to humans.